Hi everyone, I think it's time to get started. It is 2 o'clock Finnish time, maybe something else in where you are. And my pleasure today to be hosting this webinar about how Tallinn University has boosted their international student admissions. And we're going to have the experts, Nele and Kadri, to talk about that in a little bit. Before we get started, I'll run us through some practicalities and also give an introduction of how this project came to us and what the background is. And I'm Miska. I'm one of the ANI founders. I'm CEO, but I've also been very tightly working on this project myself. So since it started in December of last year, and try to share a little bit also my experience before we get started. And if you have technical questions or stuff like that, I'll be here for those as well. But the main agenda for today is visible here. So the welcoming words and intro, and then after that, Kadri and Nele are gonna give more context, like what is Tallinn University firstly, and also what was the project, its aims, and what were finally the results, which are, I'm sure, big, interesting, or the most interesting part for this webinar. But we really encourage you to participate and discuss. At their best, these types of webinars are really conversational, really low-key, and kind of easy type of thing. And in that vein, I'd invite you also to, in the chat, give an introduction of yourself, where you're calling in from, and which institution, if you want to share that. And I'll get the ball rolling myself just to start. So I'm calling in from Helsinki, Finland, and I think in the sign-up sheet we had people from at least 10 different countries, might be more than that. Mira knows the best, like what our situation is, but I counted at least 10 different, at least email endings that are different countries, indicating different places. And during the webinar, you can also use the chat to ask any questions, comments, and we'll pick those up for the speakers as we run through the whole session. And the whole session is going to be maximum 1 hour. We'll maybe stop a little bit early if we get done quicker. Let's see. And if you miss part of it, or if you have colleagues who couldn't join, we'll send a recording of the webinar to all registrants at the earliest convenience, I think early next week, latest, since it's Friday. I don't want Mira to be working on the weekend on making this recording. And we also have a case study coming up, so interview and a little bit of description of the statistics that are going to be published later on. So you can look forward to that also in the future. And hey, thanks so much everybody for participating. We noticed that it's not just Finnish people, because so many have participated quickly. We are usually slower to start, let's say. But moving on, so as background, I wanted to tell a little bit how this project came up to us at ANI, and what that was for us. So us working at ANI, what we usually have done to date for already more than 5 years is student support. So those students who have already arrived, whether they're international or domestic students, we've sent SMS and WhatsApp messages proactively to them and try to keep them on track. So answer questions, direct them to support at the universities where they are. And this has been the core thing we've been doing for a while now. So low threshold support and making sure everybody stays on track, whatever their situation is on the study path. But we really hadn't done any work in the early part. So here is, it's a big slide, I apologize, but we've done a lot of work in different points of the study path, like what is the new student's life like, and what kind of support do they need, what is thesis work like, what kind of support do they need, and so on, and also based on data triggers, sending WhatsApp and SMS messages to students. But what we hadn't done was this like potential or existing applicants, so students or potential students, let's say, students who are interested in the university or program, but haven't yet started. And this idea came from a collaborator that we share with Tallinn University, Edwin Abel. I think Hakan is on the line somewhere. And he said, like, hey, we have this idea that I know you've been working on student support for this while, and like also graduates a little bit, but how about working with applicants as well, that they have very similar needs. And we started running through this thought that, okay, what we have as the Annie student support chatbot, could it actually be used also for the application phase? And this was the thinking we had in November already last year. So this is an example of the closest thing we had done in advance. So with University of Applied Science here in Finland, we had done support for students who had already been admitted but haven't yet started. So we started thinking like, okay, does the same logic apply? Like if we send proactive messages over WhatsApp or SMS, is that a good channel? Like, yeah, probably. Okay, can the bot answer typical questions with background information? Yeah, probably. Okay, this part seems to fit. Like this is something we could maybe do. Then moving on to the second part of what we've done to date, like, okay, we have a bot builder with templates. Sure, we don't have templates for this, but what if me and Topi, my colleague in the product team, what if we together create a new template for applicants' advice? Like maybe Annie could work as it is. Maybe it's a useful framework for this. And that's like got us a little bit excited already, building something new for a group that could benefit from the bot. And finally, second to last part of Annie, this like case management. So if there are students who need to be directed to staff, they have complex questions, something the bot can't answer, could we use this part as well? And it turns out like at least on paper, it works well. And same goes for the analytics. So there are some analytics that don't really match the application stage, but maybe by modifying them and reusing parts of them, we could have something that works for applicants as well and gives us an idea of how their needs are and if the bot has worked well and what the conversation has been like. So we ran through this like idea in our head and as a conversation at the Annie team. And then we got back to the Tallinn University team and we were like, okay, this is our idea that we could do this together, but like no promises. Like this is a pilot on both sides. This is something we haven't done. We haven't seen elsewhere either, other people doing this, but we're up for giving it a shot together. And that's where the project kind of from my point of view started in December when we started preparing for the communication and boosting the admissions for specific programs at Tallinn University. But I'll stop babbling at this point and I'll hand it over. I think this is a like good point to shift the perspective to where Tallinn University came in, and I believe Kadri is starting first to get the ball rolling. Kadri, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Nele, can you share the slides?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I will. Oh.
Okay. So hi everyone. Although the slides say School of Governance, Law and Society, I will also discuss really briefly about Tallinn University and explain the situation. My name is Kadri and I will start the presentation, and then my good colleague Nele will take over because she's handling the admission process right now. I used to do it until February this year. So, but to give you really brief background information, because although I saw that there are people from Finland and Estonia, I'm not sure that everybody knows about Tallinn University. So we were founded in the present form 2005 when several private and smaller research institutions and private universities were merged to Tallinn Pedagogical University. So we are the third largest public research university in Estonia, behind Tartu, University of Tartu and Tallinn Technical University. And our focus fields are social sciences, teacher education, of course, film and media, and all those like soft areas. Tallinn University has 6 institutes, and we represent the biggest one, School of Governance, Law and Society. Since we are the biggest institute at Tallinn University, we also have the highest number of study programs that are taught fully in English. We have 3 English study programs at BA level and 3 at MA level. And well, the challenges that we started to face was, first of all, that everybody noticed was a constant decline in application numbers. And not much analysis was given at the beginning. They were addressed to different factors, like we had a COVID. Then before the COVID was over, the war in Ukraine started. And of course, Estonia is next to Russia, so people lost interest in us. The demographic situation has changed, and also the competition is getting tougher and tougher at the international higher education market. So last year we ran into a lot of problems, and it was evident that we cannot continue as we were doing, because we ended up in a serious danger that we're going to lose all the master programs taught in English. We had borderline admission numbers 2 years in a row, and last fall, 2025, for example, we couldn't open one of those free master programs, and the other two were like on the borderline or barely over it, and the borderline is 8 students to open the study program. So we accepted like 8 to 10 students to those 2 programs that were opened. Then in September, we also got a new director who had a fresh start on everything, and who was really open to think outside the box, look for new solutions, and redo everything. And it started then, I'm going to tell the solutions, but before that, we also had problems. Then I go back. We also had problems that our admission staff was overwhelmed. Because I was actually the only person handling international admission at School of Garden Law and Society, and that was not my main job. My main job is internationalization coordinator, so I had to do it besides student mobility, staff mobility, all the other tasks on my table. So I just didn't have enough time to dedicate on those applicants, and there was a constant email flood with repeating questions, which were actually found on our website. And although we were complaining about those last 2 factors already almost a year, then there was actually not much interest at the central level to change everything, because the reasoning was it has worked so far, it must continue working. So when we got our new director, now I can put the next slide. Thank you, Nele. Then we started like, okay, we cannot change anything at the central level, but we can look into what we can do at the institutes level. We couldn't change the admission process like the deadlines or language requirements or anything like that, but we looked into what we can change on our own. So first, our director hired EduEnable to analyze our study programs, the marketing, the admission process, everything. And well, their report was damaging. We had really lacking marketing strategy at central level and also at the institutes level. The marketing messages were really confusing, and actually we couldn't make clear like who we are expecting to our study program and why should they come to study with us. So yeah, it was quite bad. And also it came evident that we had a really low conversion rate in applications. While we attracted candidates, they started their application at the application system, but they never went through it with it. They never submitted their application, and it was very low. So what we decided to do last year in November was to revise the marketing messages with the help of EduEnable, and we also changed our admission process. Because one of the suggestions that EduEnable gave us was that our process is too long. It takes too much time. We used to ask candidates a motivation letter along with other documents, and then there was an interview. So first, we had to wait until the central office processed the applications. Then they were sent to my table. Then I downloaded the motivation letters, sent them to the committee for evaluation. Then I got the feedback or the grades. Then I started to communicate with the students who qualified for the interview to set up the interview. So actually, since the moment that the applicant submitted their application, it usually took about 2 months before they got their final result. Sometimes it took 4 weeks, but it wasn't too rare that they had to wait until like up to 2 months. So to speed up the process, what we decided to do is to quit the motivation letter, because let's face it, in AI era, it doesn't make much sense anymore, and all the decision is based on the interview. So by omitting the motivation letters, we already won like 2 to 3 weeks in the process. Now Nele has taken over my tasks. Nele has only admission interviews to set up. The central office will evaluate the documents. We have told them to please hurry up with those. And then we are speeding up the process. Also, to ease the workload, as Miska already introduced briefly, we decided to introduce the chatbot, because a lot of questions were repeating questions. The answers, all the information was available on our website, but students either didn't bother to look for it or they just wanted some personal attention. So we helped to train the chatbot, and later it turned out that the questions that we expected students to ask from the bot, that they actually were quite good match. And the last thing what was done at the institute level and also actually at the central level was to hire new staff members. Before this year, there were only 2 people working at the central admission office, handling all the admissions to Tallinn University. And at the institute level, it was me doing it besides other tasks. Now we have, at the institute level, we have Nele, who is responsible for the admissions, and the central office has hired 2 more people. So they are actually, depending, there's 3 or 4 people are working on admission. And here I actually give floor to Nele, because I think I've covered all the things that I wanted to tell you.
Is my microphone on?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, perfect. So, hi, my name is Nele and I coordinate international admissions now. I joined the university at the time when Annie was being launched, and my job with Annie was to upload students who had expressed interest in studying with us and send them automated messages. And the candidates were able to interact with the chatbot directly in WhatsApp. And if they had additional questions or preferred to communicate with the person, then their requests were forwarded to me by email. Now we sent out 3 types of messages. 2 of them went to applicants who were in draft status, and third one went to already admitted applicants. The first one was a welcome message thanking candidates for their interest, and the goal was to remind them of us and encourage them to ask questions. Then the second one was a deadline reminder, and the aim was remind the applicants about the deadline and the key actions that need to take place before the deadline. And the third one was a follow-up message to already admitted candidates, asking whether they needed any additional support with housing or visas, or to answer any of their open questions and make sure they are working on the needed steps before study start. And now let's see how Annie handled it. 84.5% of applicants were successfully reached by the bot. These are the applicants that were reachable via WhatsApp. And 91% of the conversations were fully handled by the bot, and only 9% were forwarded to me, which means a lot less work for me. And since Annie is a way friendlier environment than official emails, I bet that candidates felt more comfortable asking questions and gained much clearer understanding of the procedures. And this also helps raise the conversion rate from draft status to applied status. And one additional piece of data that on average, each conversation consisted of 21 messages, which also suggests that candidates found these discussions valuable and needed the opportunity to seek clarification. And there were no inappropriate or questionable conversations with the bot, which is very positive. Here are the top 10 topics that were discussed with Annie. Of course, scholarships were among the most popular topics as the programs require tuition fees. And then application process, which is the most important part when applying. And as you can see, application follow-up was popular as well. So it showed that the third message to already admitted applicants was something that the applicants needed. And let's see the results. The outcome has been very positive. The number of applicants has increased across all study programs. Furthermore, looking specifically at enrollments, there were 11 enrolled candidates at one point last year. And at the same point this year, there were already 95 enrolled candidates. So it's a huge increase. Also, key result is that 45% increase in applicant conversion. This means from draft status to applied status. And of course, the administrative workload has decreased significantly, allowing us to focus on more substantive student needs rather than answering bulk emails. And previously, we received like 5 to 10 emails per day, and now we receive only 1 to 2, and some days none at all. And of course, as I said before, immediate support creates more personal, friendly impression of the university, and it's an important aspect to our reputation. And finally, staff members who were involved in the pilot were positively surprised by the bot's answers, and we sparked interest within the central admissions office as well, who are now considering adopting this approach. So, in conclusion, the user interface has been intuitive, convenient, and easy to use, and we are very pleased with the decision to use Annie and the results that we received with it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nele and Kadri. Really great to get the overview starting from like who you are and what kind of problems you were trying to solve, and finally all the way to the end to the results. And while we wait for questions and comments in the chat, I wanted to cast both of your minds back to before the project started, before we sent the first messages. Can you remember like what were your biggest worries or doubts at that time? Like before we had started, like what were the things you were thinking like, oh, I hope X doesn't happen? Does anything come to mind?
Actually, I wasn't too worried. I was concerned about really like silly questions, and maybe candidates start like testing the bot and asking stupid questions and see where it goes. But it didn't happen. So that was the only concern that I had, because I have already experienced bots in client service anywhere, and they usually are quite accurate. Like if you ask questions in certain perimeter, and we set the perimeter quite well, I think, and it worked.
To me, I was responsible of the more technical part, so I was a little worried if I managed to use the program and that I do not mess anything up. But it was easy to use. I didn't mess anything up, so it went great.
Great to hear. Thanks both. And for us, like when building a bot together with you, it was really a huge like boost or boon that you had such good background materials. Like basically to train the bot, we used your website information that you had, and I think there was an FAQ document also, like typical questions that you were already answering. So to my knowledge, you didn't need to create like any new background information. Instead, you already had it. And I think Kadri also already referred to this, but I was a little bit expecting there to be like questions that we didn't expect, because that happens a lot, that we have this idea like, of course, these are what applicants are interested in. And then they ask like 20% asked something else, but that really didn't happen. Like all of the questions were on topic. And the ones that were escalated were topics that you already knew, like if they ask about these specifics or they want a certain decision about a certain requirement or something, then it should be escalated. And those were the ones that were forwarded to Nele. Of course, there were also questions about programs that were not in the pilot. Those were the ones we knew, like, okay, we won't take those into account because they don't participate in the pilot yet, but of course interested, want to help those as well, because it's part of Tallinn University, as long as it's not like something completely random.
Yeah, in that sense, Tallinn University has really decentralized approach that only what is decided at the central level are the application dates, or deadlines, and like the basic language requirement, like which English tests are accepted and what is the minimum level, which is B2 in English. But everything else is up to the institute, like how you organize the admission exams, what is the procedure, what documents the candidates need to provide. Everything is even up to every study program to decide on their own. So we have a lot of freedom, and that's why this grass level approach worked, that we were only fixed with deadlines and language requirements and everything else, or of course the prior education requirements as well, but everything else we could change according to edu-enable analysis and what we thought that would work.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I was thinking now when you were explaining like what were my expectations also before we sent out the messages, and I wasn't sure like how many of applicants would actually reply. Like we have a lot of experience, like years and years of experience reporting students who are already like in-house, and there it's average 65%. So I was expecting like this is probably less. Like these are applicants, they are not like committed, they are looking probably at many options, but even like a lot more than I expected answered. I think it was 68.5% in the end out of those that got the message that replied. And even more than that, I was like not expecting the volume. I think the first day we sent out the message, we got like nearly 3,000 messages in the first 24 hours, like back and forth. Many of those are by the bot, of course, but it was a lot more.
Yeah, but I was baffled by the first number. Like,
same. Like 21 per person, it's very high, a lot higher than I expected, but luckily like it worked well and the quality of answers was high and so on. So it was of course like worked well. We had a couple of checkpoints during the process to check the data and see that, oh, it's behaving well and all the background information is correct and so on. But good. Thoughts from the audience. I have Jonas with a question, and if anybody wants to add any questions in the chat, or of course open up your mic and camera, that's okay as well, but just be mindful you'll be on the recording if you do that. But Jonas, go ahead.
Yeah, I understand that you started like prepping in December and it was live already, like was it in February or so? Do you think it was enough time to do the preparation with this quite short time scale?
So I'd love to hear from Kadri and Nele. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so, because we didn't have any setbacks or anything. We really extensively trained the bot, especially in February. I think that was the main. We started in January, but in February we started like training the bot. So all the staff members also asked their family members, like, okay, go and ask anything, like relevant questions and irrelevant questions. And when we checked, we had like weekly meetings with any advisor just to check like what are the questions that have been asked and how the bot replied. And after that, I think it was 4 weeks or something like that, and then we were confident enough to set it live, like open to everybody. So yeah, I would say that it was sufficient time.
Good to hear. And Nele came immediately as new, like you were hired and you immediately started the project. So I can imagine it felt a little bit rushed.
Yeah, because Nele joined our team in February and she took over the bot. So.
It was like on my second day when we talked about the lunch, and the lunch was then on my third day, I guess.
Yeah, you were super quick to pick it up. Like already after a couple of weeks, you were fully like autonomous. I put also the test version of the bot in the chat if somebody wants to try it. It's not fully up to date and not realistic, and but it only includes like public information from TLU's website. So if you want to get a sense of it, usually this conversation would be in WhatsApp, but this is a website version just to give you a sense of what it's like. And this is the version we also sent around like to colleagues and friends and so on to try, just to get like as much input before we go live. Good, and thanks Jonas for the thoughtful question. Any other thoughts or questions from the attendees? Also, feel free to share any experience you have if you've deployed bots or AR systems or other things to increase admissions. While we wait for people to pick it up, I wanted to mention also like the data part. So you're using a tool called Dream Apply for the applicants, and that's where we got the interested applicants who had not yet applied, and that's the data we use to trigger the messages. And the messages only go to those that already have a WhatsApp account, so they've already approved privacy policies and so on. But of course, it's really important that the applicants always know they're talking to an AI system when they are, so that they know it's not like a person replying, and that's a big part also of the EU AI Act. I might have sabotaged our conversation by putting the link in the chat. People might be talking to the bot right now, but feel free to anybody if you have questions or thoughts, go ahead at this point. In accordance with the Finnish and Estonian way, we have been really quick, so we have a bunch of time.
Now, there are two possibilities. Either people got everything very clear, or we confused them so much that they don't even know what to ask.
Yeah, it's one or the other.
Okay,
Christina, go ahead.
Question.
Go ahead, Christina.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for this presentation. I have a question. How much did it cost? Maybe I missed, maybe I skipped this information, but the price, what is the price of this?
Yeah, it did. In this specific project, it was kind of a development project, so it's not completely comparable now that we have a template for the model, but it depends a little bit on the size of the university, and usually we have per bot per year cost, and it depends on the size of your university. It starts somewhere around 8,000 a year and goes up to somewhere around 15 or 16,000 now that we have a template for it that Tallinn University has done development that we can all reuse to work, but it depends on like how big it is and how many programs you have roughly. But it's
and maybe on the applications which you receive, right? The number of applications.
Yeah, it doesn't really affect it. We try to bundle it in a way where it's just like one cost for the bot, and that includes everything, all of the workshops, the support, the message transfer, integrations, and so on. So try to keep it as simple as possible.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, and if you have a specific like use case in mind and university, I can check like an exact price, but that's the ballpark is between 8 and 15, a little bit more depending on the size. Arman is asking in the chat, does the website share the tech stack and framework that the bot is built on? Additionally, what LLM does the bot leverage to generate its response? Yeah, good question. So it shares part of the tech stack. Of course, when we are operating over WhatsApp, that adds the messaging gateway in between, and we have the like any framework behind that handles the support needs and the direction, like what goes to whom and have questions been answered and so on. So part of it, or big part of it, is shared. The website part is only for like demo and testing purposes. Mostly we have a separate like website embeddable version of Annie as well, which is pretty new. Then regarding the LLM, so we're using Gemini, which is the Google LLM. We're using 2.5 Pro, I believe, right now for most cases. And the reason for this is that it sticks really well to instruction. So it stays in the material you give it. It doesn't give answers about like what's a good bar in Tallinn if the students ask or applicants ask. But also we can run it fully in the EU region and even pick countries. So if you're EU-based, we can run it in a specific country, but just in the EU ETA region, which is super important for data privacy as well. Or if you're US-based, I think there were a couple of US attendees, that would be also possible. I hope that answers your question, but it's mostly self-developed, and then we use Gemini underneath as the LLM. Alrighty. Thanks, guys, for opening the pool of questions as well. Any other thoughts, ideas? Also, comments are fine if you have your own experiences or ideas and so on. Thanks, Arman, as well. I forgot to give my contact information. If you have any questions afterward, I'll share my screen right away and also put it in the chat. So if you have any thoughts about the project, or you have like questions about specifics or costs or anything, or want to deploy a similar bot, we would be happy to discuss that. I'll put the conversations in the chat as well. And No pressure, Kadri or Nele, but is it okay if people reach out to you as well if they have thoughts or questions?
Yeah, sure. I
Nice.
cannot comment much about the bot. I can only talk about history, how we used to work before Annie. And Nele is the right person to ask about Annie and the experience with that. I only help to train the bot.
It's really useful help nonetheless. Good. We were super quick, I think, if there's nothing I missed in the chat. Straight to the point, and everything is handled, and everybody's ready to proceed with their Friday afternoon, or if you're somewhere else in the world, it might be a different time of day. Anything anybody wanted to add or ask or comment before we wrap up? If you have a thing that you're thinking, maybe I would like to ask this, but I'm a little bit doubtful, now is the final moment. Thanks, Helena. All right. If not, then we're done for the day. I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and we'll send the recording afterwards as well as the case study when we have it ready. And thanks so much, Kadri and Nele, for presenting and bringing your experience. Appreciate it a lot.
Thank you for your invitation. Okay. Bye.
Bye all.